We have a new legendary brawler coming to Brawl Stars, and his name is Pierce. Today, I'm going to put him head-to-head with every brawler in Brawl Stars to find out just how good he's going to be. But first, let me tell you all about him. Pierce is the final brawler in the Velociraptors trio alongside Buzz and Doug. While Buzz is a lifeguard that makes sure people stay safe in the pool, Pierce is there to, make sure that people don't pee in the pool. Yuck. He is a legendary marksman with 6,000 hit points at max level. Pierce has 3 ammo and deals 1,900 damage per shot. However, his final bullet in his ammo bar will deal 3,000 damage, so make that last shot count. After firing all 3 shots, his reload bar will very slowly build up and return all his ammo to him. However, there is a much better way to reload. For every shot that you hit on a target, Pierce will drop a shell. These shells are like round containers of water that pop out nearby him. When you pick up a shell, 2 things will happen. First off, you will reload one of your shots, but also it will fire off a smaller shot at the nearest target, and that shot can also go through walls. This small shot can actually travel further than his main shot as well. Again, it's very important to note that you must hit the shot on an enemy to drop a shell. If you miss your shot, it's just gone. However, really good players could actually stay on that last ammo, hitting a 3K shot, picking up that shell, and getting a 3K shot right back again. And you can actually make that last shot even more powerful by equipping his star power called Mission Swim Possible. It's like Mission Impossible, but Swim Possible. With this, his last ammo will also slow enemies down by 30% for a short time. Another thing to know is that not everything that he fires at and hits will cause him to drop a shell. In Showdown, shooting a power cube box will not drop a shell, which will severely hamper him in this mode due to the long reload time. And the same goes for Heist, as shells do not drop when you attack a heist safe. But those shells dropping can be even better with his second star power called Slip and Snipe. Whenever he picks up a shell with his star power, he gets a short burst of speed. But if you're running low on shells, you can use his first gadget called Bottomless Mags. When pressed, it will instantly reload 1 ammo as well as drop a shell next to him, so essentially 2 ammo and 1 small shot for just 1 gadget on a 13-second cooldown. It is very strong. However, his other gadget called You Only Brawl Twice will absorb all shells around him and then take that and turn it into a shield as well as a knockback. One thing to note here is that if there are no shells around you to absorb, you won't get a shield, but you still get the knockback effect. Now, it looks like the max shield will be around 9,000. However, that's only if he can hit a bunch of targets at once, which is very unlikely. His super is the one thing that gives him that area damage, but not directly. With his super, you will mark a location at long range, and if there is a target within that circle, they will be marked, and then after a short delay, it will fire a shot at every target within that area. If that shot hits, it will deal a whopping 3,200 damage per shot. And also, the shot does have a slight homing to it, not as strong as like Meeple's homing shots, but it's still deadly. Okay, now that you know all about Pierce, let's see how he does in base level interactions against every brawler of every class, starting with his fellow marksman. Brock and Pierce are almost identical in terms of damage, but Brock wins by just a few frames. For this close, Janet unloads way too fast. Angelo only gets 1 good shot off, and then it's over. Maisie just 2-taps him. Another close one with Mandy, but Pierce has the edge. With Belle, it's also really close, but he wins. Finally, against Bonnie, we get to see Pierce use his shells to win yet again, but Nani absolutely clobbers him. He beats B, but only by literally 3 frames. However, Piper's damage is just too much. He put up a pretty respectable score here despite not being able to really use the one mechanic that gives him an edge. When you're squaring off against another marksman in a game, it will be a considerably different story, I think. He has the damage to go toe-to-toe with pretty much any of them. His damage is slightly lower, but if you hit those shots, you can consistently get shells and the extra shots that come along with them. You're going to be putting vastly more pressure on them than they are you. I can see situations where in Bounty you're picking up shells, and since it fires off at the closest enemy, you could be pressuring another brawler that's not even in your lane, which is going to make it hard for the other team. And the fact that those shots can go through walls make it even tougher because the other team just can't feels safe hiding behind a wall and healing up. On the flip side, his raw damage is not as high as the other marksmen. And if you miss some shots, you're going to be putting yourself further behind, having to stop and wait for that very long reload bar. This is very much a high skill reward brawler. If you hit a lot of shots, he is going to dominate interactions. But that was an even fight. How about one that's, well, very much not even? The tanks. Now for this test, I'm going to place the tanks back near the extent of Pierce's range to see if they can run him down and take him out. Now I hear you, Lex, that's not fair. And no, it's not. So just so you know, the official record for this test for Pierce is going to be 0 and 14. I did test them all at close range as well, and yeah, to the surprise of exactly 0 people, the tanks obliterated the sniper up close. That's how that kind of works. And since this is how I've always tested them, I'll leave that as the official one, but what you're seeing now is just more fun to watch. We get to see Pierce use his shells that provide a lot of extra damage, and many times that is the one thing that saves him from being beaten. BB even gets close and gets a knockback. Not that it helped her. However, the distance does not matter to Frank as he just strolls right up and destroys him. Jackie's hard hat star power helped her some, but not quite enough to win. Daryl didn't even get close enough to deal damage, but at least Rosa got one punch off. Just one. Primo suffered the same fate, as with all those extra shots rolling in, it's kind of tough to win. And Bull might be the king of close range, but he's got to get there first. So he went 13-1 in the test that didn't count, but 0 and 14 in the one that really did. Did we expect anything less? No, we did not. However, we did learn some things. First off, as a tank, if you're planning on just trying to run Pierce down, you better be bobbing and weaving, because if he hits those shots and those shells start piling up, then you're going to be staring down the barrel of a lot of damage. The big caveat here is that he has to hit those shots. If not, then that really long reload is going to be brutal and give a tank a massive opening to get in there and finish you off. I can see tanks like BB with that extra speed really giving Pierce fits, as she can be awfully hard to hit when she's moving real fast. And other tanks that have big gap closers like Daryl and Bull, well, there's really never much you can do about that anyway. This is a mismatch in multiple different ways for both sets of brawlers, so put it this way. If you're playing Pierce, just don't miss. Easy. Now, we weren't surprised by the last test, but this next one, it surprised me. The throwers never hardly win any interactions, but take a look at these. Almost every interaction here is very close. There's 2 reasons for this. One is that Pierce has a pretty slow unload speed, but also with only 6,000 hit points, a few of these throwers have more hit points than he does. While throwers, for the most part, don't deal a ton of damage, some do, and they hold the line pretty well here against this brand new legendary brawler. I think this is going to be a pretty interesting matchup in a game, but not how you might think. If a Pierce and a thrower are in a lane against each other, well, then the thrower has the advantage, without question, no doubts, because Pierce has no wall break, no dash, and nothing to get to the thrower or even hit any shots. However, it's not the direct hits from Pierce that should scare the throwers, it's his shell shots. If a thrower happens to be closer to Pierce than the other brawler that he's shooting and hitting shots on, then that wall is not going to stop Pierce's small shots. Now, normally a thrower would feel safe behind the wall, but it won't always be the case if a Pierce is on the field, so indirectly, it's a tough comp for a thrower, but directly, not so much. But there are some brawlers that will directly want to take the fight to him, and that's the assassins. If you play a lot of long-range brawlers, then you'll know that an assassin showing up on your doorstep uninvited is something you never want to see. But Pierce doesn't have the choice here like he would in a game where you would stay far, far away. Even my boy Crow gets a win despite his low health, and Gigi, with that buff, gets herself a win too. Allie makes short work of Pierce, and Lily does it even faster with that blade of hers. Melody needs to ramp up, but Pierce gets a clutch shell shot to win. Miko, well, he wins almost every 1v1 interaction, and Fang just makes Pierce smell his feet. Disgusting. Buzz beats his fellow pool worker, and Mortis doesn't even need his new Buffy here. Shade gives him a hug, Sam gives him the old 1-2 combo, Edgar slaps him silly, and Stu uses his fire to evaporate the water. So yeah, 1 in 16. I mean, at least he got one win in there, and that's actually as good as most of the other marksmen would do. Plain and simple, this is not a fair fight. Assassins can beat almost any brawler if they get the drop on them, and marksmen especially are susceptible. Now that's not to say that Pierce has no way to defend himself. He does have a gadget, but you're going to have to be sure to bring that one into a fight where you think that assassins might be. Hopefully you got some teammates to keep you safe and support you. And speaking of support, let's see how the support brawlers stack up. Kit starts the support off strong and claws out a win. But Jay, even with the extra damage, falls just a bit short and loses. Doug is basically a tank in disguise, but Gray plays more like a marksman and wins. Ruff's unload speed and damage is really good, but Byron, he never stood a chance. Max wins by only a fraction of a second, and Barry comes awfully close to getting a win as well. Against Gus, it is a literal tie as both of their death spots appear on literally the same frame. And Poco does better than you would think, but in the end takes the L. So 4 wins, 6 losses, and 1 tie. Honestly, I thought it'd be better than that against this class, but this is one where these tests are a bit deceiving. Against brawlers like Gray or Gus, yeah, I think this is about as squares matchup as you can get. While their damage is about the same, Pierce does have a small advantage in game thanks to the mechanic of his shells. Just being able to pick them up and put extra pressure with their little shots as well as reloading more ammo, I think gives him the edge, but some of these other brawlers, Pierce just outranges them by leaps and bounds. Byron is able to put a lot of pressure on the player with his sneaky damage over time, and just like Byron, despite not doing the best in these tests, I think that he's going to be just fine against every one of these brawlers in a real game. That is, unless a Kit hypercharge jumps on you, and then yeah, you're dead. So now we move to the control brawlers. There is quite a wide variety of different brawlers in this group. From throwers who have great supers that control areas, to long-range brawlers that can shut down tanks. And as such, it's a bit hard to generalize on a certain archetype that Pierce would be facing. On a raw level, he puts out more damage than most of these brawlers, but not always. He for sure has more range than the bulk of these brawlers that he's facing. Otis absolutely destroys him, but with Lou, we have another frame-perfect tie. Squeak was close, but Pierce got a shell off. And Mr. P surprisingly dishes out a lot of damage. And even Gene wins in this close battle. Meeple's unload speed is like Pierce's, slow, but Gale doesn't have that problem at all. Griff shreds almost everyone, and Ems does the same thing. Even Jessie gets a win, even if she does die right afterwards. So 8 wins, 10 losses, and 1 tie. Again, a pretty average showing. However, in a game, I'd give the nod to Pierce for the most part because these brawlers are just simply going to get outranged by him. You can't beat him if you can't hit him. Then again, as a controller, you're not going to want to be in a lane against Pierce anyways. If that was your matchup, you'd probably want to switch lanes in a hurry because you're just going to have your shots falling short of the mark and be in for a long day. So it's a great matchup for Pierce, but probably one that you're not likely to face all the time. One matchup that you probably won't be able to avoid though is against our last set of brawlers, the damage dealers. Chester up this close? Forget about it. Surge unloads his shots too fast and Spike's new curveball is disgusting. Mina is still Mina. And Lumi gets a strong win too. It was close with the Rat, but he lost, and Clancy at stage 2 gets a win as well. RT won't even let him pick up a shell, but he does snag a win against Eve. Tara at this range loses, but up close she would win. Pearl with full heat, he got burnt. And then we have another dead tie with Lola that stops the losing streak. Then he gets a much needed win against Colette. Carl's shots take too long to return and he loses. And again, another exact tie with Rico. There is no tie with 8-Bit, just too much damage. And Colt shows Pierce no mercy. And finally, Shelly 2-taps him to finish the test. So then, you've seen Pierce 1v1 against every brawler in Brawl Stars in base level interactions. Is he going to be worthy of that legendary rarity? Let's talk about it. His final tally was 29 wins, 64 losses, and 4 ties. Now that sounds bad, but remember, these are just base level interactions. They show you what could happen if all things were equal, and they very rarely are. Additionally, marksmen are at a disadvantage in these tests due to their range not being fully utilized. Pierce has quite a lot of things going for him, but also some weaknesses as well. The good side is that his range is long and his shot is pretty wide, which will lead to more shots being hit. When those shots do get hit, he gets perhaps his coolest mechanic with the extra shots and the reload of his shells. This is something that I couldn't really take advantage of in these tests, but make no mistake, in a game, you're absolutely going to want to keep an eye on him because those shots are going to surprise a bunch of people. Now, the downsides for him are that his unload speed is pretty slow, so he's not like a really rapid fire brawler like Maisie would be. And if you don't hit your shots, then his actual reload speed is brutally slow. But honestly, I'm okay with that. I really like that this brawler rewards higher skill because if you can hit your shots, you are going to be tearing people up. And while his super is pretty cool, I don't think the value is great because it's pretty easy to dodge because once you're marked in that circle, you 100% know the shot is coming your way and you can move out of it. But then again, the main draw here is not his super, but hitting those shots, picking up the shells, and putting out a flurry of pressure from incredibly long range. So, is he going to be good? Heck yes, he's going to be good. In Bounty, he's going to be amazing. Gem grab maps that support long-range brawlers, he will dominate. Brawl Ball is going to be tougher without a great defensive mechanism, and Solo Showdown is going to be really tough since he doesn't drop shells whenever he shoots a power box. And the same goes for Heist, as shells do not drop when you attack a Heist safe. And in Knockout, well, that's basically like Bounty, and he should do well there too. Overall, I really love the thought that went into this brawler. His overall damage is average, or even on the low side if you're an average player, but if you have good aim and you hit his shots, then his ceiling is really high, and I could see him being incredibly strong. And because of that, it's kind of hard to give him a rating. Like, if you're an average player, he's just kind of mid. But if you're good, then this brawler is for sure a solid 8 out of 10, at least. But how about the other new brawler, Glowbird? Well, come back tomorrow to find out how he does.